What makes a leader resistant to growth and development? The answer, more often than not, isn't arrogance. It also isn't disinterest or even a lack of motivation. In my experience, it is the absence of trust. Think about it. When someone shows up to a development experience with their arms crossed, guarded, skeptical, going through the motions, what is really happening underneath that? They've probably been in rooms before where they felt exposed instead of supported, where the feedback felt like criticism instead of care, where the experience was done to them instead of with them, where they gave something vulnerable and it didn't land safely. So they learned, they built walls. They got really good at protecting themselves in spaces that hadn't earned their openness. And then we wonder why they show up resistant, which is why growth and development, trust has to come first in those situations and with that experience before the content, before the frameworks, before any of the growth work can happen. The foundation has to be there. And that foundation is built one small moment at a time in the way you welcome people into the room, in the way you handle the first vulnerable thing someone shares, in the pace, in whether people feel seen as human beings, not as competencies to develop or problems to solve. So I was recently concluding a leadership development program for leaders within local government. They were leaders who hadn't had a lot of focused personal development before, not because they didn't deserve it, but because it simply hadn't been prioritized for them. They'd been doing the work, leading teams, navigating systems, carrying real responsibility, without much of anyone stopping to invest in them as leaders in this formal way. So when we designed this program, trust came first. We met them where they were. We created space for them to be seen as humans. We moved at the pace the trust required. And at the end of the program, a director with a large span of control walked up to me and said, "I'm a tough nut to crack, Andrea, and you cracked it. Thank you." And I have, as a coach and a facilitator, I have thought about that moment every single day because this leader wasn't resistant because she didn't want to grow. She was resistant because she had learned, probably over a long career, to protect herself in spaces that hadn't always felt safe, to keep her guard up, to not give too much of herself to an experience until she knew it was worth it. And when the trust was there, when the space felt genuinely safe, she cracked open. And what came out was so beautiful. She even told me that she'd been meeting with all of her leaders one-on-one to talk about how they can use the content to tweak, enhance, and expand their leadership. So that's the lesson for every leader who facilitates growth in others, whether you're leading a formal development program, a team meeting, a one-on-one conversation, or just trying to get the best out of someone who seems checked out. You cannot rush trust. You cannot shortcut connection. And you cannot demand vulnerability from people who haven't felt safe enough to offer it. But when you build it, when you slow down and meet people where they are and trust that the process will work if it gives what it needs, the resistant leaders of the world crack open and they surprise you and they surprise themselves. Trust the process. It works every time. So here's your reflection for today. Who in your world is a tough nut to crack right now? A team member who seems disengaged, a colleague who keeps their guard up, someone who hasn't let you in just yet. What would it look like to stop trying to crack them and start building the trust that makes cracking open feel safe? The breakthrough is always on the other side of the foundation. Build the foundation first. This is the work. And we would love to do it with you. If this resonates with you, check us out at abundantempowerment.com. There are multiple ways for you to engage. What a great way to take care of yourself and ultimately each other.